Hi and welcome to the channel. So today there's really no unboxing and what you're seeing is one of the reasons why I post less videos this November. This is the Transport Fever 2. I am a fan of these traffic simulation games. So I actually started with Cities in Motion, which is basically the prequel of Cities Skylines. But before I dive into this game, I'd like to show you the specs of this PC. So as you can see here, this is an Intel i5 13500. Memory is 32GB RAM and the GPU is a colorful RTX 4060 Ti. Most of the time, this game is pretty much playable. It's at 4K 60 FPS. So if I move around, it drops to 30, 50. But still good. I could say that this is still a playable game. So my biggest issue here is if I do this, I will click on this cargo station, then click configure. So at this point, this is still pretty much playable. But if I start to build, I guess I'll start to deconstruct one thing first. So and then, boom. You can see at the top right, sorry, at the top left, that's 4 FPS. Right? And everything moves very slow. Very slow. And if you look at the task manager, right, you could see that the CPU, I guess the third CPU, is at 100%, almost constantly. The rest are doing, I guess it's fair. The rest are doing fair amount of CPU load. But the third one seems to be eating everything. And if you'll notice the GPU percentage usage, it's around 17%, 16 to 17%. The RAM isn't really utilized as well. So this is clearly a CPU bottleneck. And I'd like to resolve this in this video. I hope I could resolve it. So other than the CPU bottleneck, there are RAM and GPU bottlenecks as well. As you can see in this screenshot here, and this is during video editing, my VRAM is almost full at around 6.6 gigabytes. And my RAM is almost full as well at around 80% usage. There are some screenshots, I hope I could find one, where both are really full and therefore this needs to be upgraded as well. So anyway, I'll exit the game first. So anyway, the first step is to download the BIOS from the Asus official website. So I'll just search for V760-I. And thanks to Asus unique naming, they are the first result. So I'll go to... reject this. Check. I'll go to support, then driver and utility, BIOS software, BIOS and firmware, sorry. And then this is the latest one. So it was released like 12 days ago. When I first checked this is still in beta version, but now it is stable, I guess. So I'll download this one. So once you've downloaded it, this is a cap file. So you need to copy it in your flash drive. For me, I have a flash drive here. Just copy it here. Once it's there, I'll restart and apply that BIOS. So now I'm in the BIOS menu. I'll go to advanced mode, then tool, then flash utility, and then locate the drive where I put the BIOS. Where is it again? Oh, it's this one. So this is the B760-I. Then I don't think I have BitLocker. I guess I'll just click yes. So it successfully read the version and the date. So do you really want to update? Yeah. So give it some time. Okay. So it says that it is updated successfully. And it restarted on its own. Okay, so it's still updating. Do not shut down. Let's wait for it. Still updating. Anyway, while waiting, so I updated the BIOS because I plan to use this Intel i7 14700K. Oh wait, let's press F1. So the XMP became disabled. So let's enable this. I think that's the only setting that I made on this PC. Let's press F10. Then, okay. So it will probably do some memory timing. And again, I'm going to replace the processor with this Intel i7 14700K. So it came in this weird box. So actually DataBlitz called me, tell me this problem. But oh well. Anyway, it successfully booted to Windows. I'll just opt out on this backup thing from Windows. And let's see. Performance, memory. So it's still 6,000 mega transfers. I hope it can be seen in the camera. Let's check this out. So it's actually sealed. I hope it isn't mangled. CPU looks new. So there's no visible damage. So for the RAM issue, I'm going to upgrade it with this is the Kingston Fury. So there are other options such as G-Skill, but it's not really part of the qualified vendor list of Asus B760-i. So I'm going to use this instead. Not sure what does it look like. Oh, it's easy to open. And yeah, it's a normal RAM with not so normal heat spreader. Anyway, I'll try it out as well. Okay, anyway, that's it for this part of the video. Later, I will beat the PC. So yeah, this is my NR200P. Since I need to install this 14700K, I will need to unmount the cooler. That will be a long process. Generally, that's the problem with ITX cases. You can see some circles here. That's basically the dirt. So one thing that I like about this NR200P, the old one, is that if you want to view the motherboard, just have to remove 2 screws. So even if you have a radiator, there's no need to remove the GPU. Technically, I could do the upgrade here with minimal changes. And yep, just slide it there. And there you go. There's more dust in here for sure. Please forgive the dirt. Oh, that's a lot of dust. So you might be wondering, why am I unplugging things when I just need to replace my CPU? So actually, I plan to migrate these components to NR200P V2. So if you'll ask why the V2, there's actually no other reason than I could resell this better than the V2. So my V2 has missing screws and this one has complete screws, so I could resell this far easily than the V2. And of course, since this is a real PC, expect to see dust being used, especially for editing. I think it's best to remove the GPU first. Plug this. GPU itself is not that dirty, I guess. Yeah, it's not that dirty. Set this aside for now. This way I'll have more room for everything. So my only issue about this cooler is that it is basically out of warranty at this point. I won't be able to chase Sieston now because Sieston is no longer in Lazada. There's a problem with online sellers that you don't really know where they are located. There's less accountability overall. Then I need to remove the RAM as well. G-Skill 6000 CL36 RAM, so no longer need this. So before I mess things up, I think I'll clean this first. And of course this one as well. So I will not remove the back plate. I don't think it's necessary. So you might be wondering why I have this colorful box. And the reason is that I'm going to send this to this box. I'm going to pack this. So if you're wondering why I'm packed up the colorful 4060 Ti, as mentioned previously, I have a VRAM bottleneck. Basically, the 4060 Ti won't do. Maybe the 16 gig will do, but I don't have a 16 gig right now. Still, I need to replace this with something else. So what's left is this PSU here. So I'm going to return the so-called PCIe covers here. I'm going to unscrew these 2 screws here. So of course, the screws can go here. Guess I could close one side of the case. Guess last to tackle is this guy here. Basically the radiator mount. Just remove these screws here. The panels, this is ready to sell. Of course, the front panel. Lastly, the top panel. So this guy, they'll get a better box. So to continue, again, the 14700K. So why am I using the 14700K? It's because I have this B760-i. So my only upgrade path is to get the 14 series, 13 series and above. I can actually go with 12900K, but I don't know. I think 14700K is still better. So I know the Intel issues. I'm aware of the Intel issues, but I'll risk it. This is also one reason why I'm going to upgrade with this 14700K. It is to test whether Intel's claims are correct. Anyway, let's remove this from this box. I hope I will not be like the one in Reddit, where basically they burnt their 9800 X3D. So I hope I'm not like them. So triangle, triangle.
There's actually someone who pointed out that there are notches here which will align perfectly. I think it was Buildzoid who pointed it out for the 9800X 3D. So the same goes for Intel. It's the same. They have notches there to ensure that it is locked. Anyway, let's hope that it will boot. Usually I would buy the non-F processor. So the reason is that in the event that my GPU doesn't work, at least I could troubleshoot it with this. For the RAM, so I went with Kingston. Usually I would go with G-Skill, but the G-Skill that I want isn't really qualified for this motherboard. So I checked that out. Sadly, only Kingston is available. So this is the 32GB stick. So two of them make 64. So it looks off. Sadly, it looks off. Anyway, time to put this in the case. As for the case, again, it's the V2. Basically the same size as the V1. I think I'll reorient these first. For this, I'll have to mount the motherboard first. So next is the PSU. So I added another 8-pin connector because my next GPU is slightly more power hungry. So it will face this here. Anyway, just screw this. So just secure the PSU. Then just plug the 24-pin. Then for this one, what's missing is the 8-pin. So the 8-pin should be plugged somewhere here. Just plug this thing here. So one thing that I hate about this cooler is the mounting mechanism. It's quite tough, but once you get a few screws in, it's pretty much okay. So I supported the back plate using my left hand. Then just screw this thing here. Once it's threaded, you can use your screwdriver. 3 turns at a time. I might need to flip. Try to flip the cooler. Okay, so at least I tried. So going this route, okay, let me show it. Right, if you're going to this route, let's say that you're up to here. The tubes aren't really long enough for me to route in this manner. So the best route is for these tubes to go underneath and then here on the sides and then here at the top. That's the best route. But because it's not long enough and it's still long, it's just that it's not long enough, these excess cables will definitely fight with the graphics card that I will put. So best is to flip this back again. At least I tried. Okay, so this will be the goal. Put in the CPU fan here. Oh, before I forgot, right, I think I haven't screwed everything yet. So these are in exhaust mode now. Definitely will hurt your CPU a bit. Okay, so for these guys, I can just leave it here. Let's see if I can close it. That is somewhat better. At least the front doesn't look as bad. So most of the fan cables are behind the mother tray on the other side of the case, not really behind the motherboard. So lastly is the GPU. Yeah, for the GPU, I need this guy. So for the GPU, I'll be using the Palit RTX 4070 Super. So the reason is that the thermal performance of this is not that good. So you might wonder, if it's not that good, why am I installing it in my computer? The reason is that, for one, I can't sell this anymore. It's not that good. Second is that if I use it in my SFF build, the data for the thermal benchmarks isn't good because I'm using a hot GPU. So given that, if I install it in a case, I'm not sure if the case is not performing or the GPU is not performing, right? So best is to not use this in my SFF builds. Anyway, the bad thing about this PSU is that it doesn't have a 12 VH power. So I'll use this adapter instead. But that's also okay. I mean, it's not that bad. Just plug this guy here. So the tube is just right. So it doesn't really fight the GPU. And the length is also just right. So if I have a longer GPU and I use this rad, I think it's still fine. Can still push it a bit. So after movie magic, this is how it will look like. So I also put back the bottom panel, as the bottom panel has a fan. So I made sure that it can still work. Yeah, testing the fans, it spins, and also the bottom fan spins. So what I did, I tied the PCIe power connector to the AIO tubes, and then I routed it back a bit towards that side so that I could tie it together with these included Velcro straps from the case. That's pretty much it, so that it's not that long. It will also force this to go here. So I think this bend should be fine. I hope. Anyways, it's just a 4070 Super. It's not a 4090, so the power draw isn't that big. So it should be fine. As for the bottom fan, I routed it here. This side, still in the back side. The best way is to route the fan here behind the motherboard, not in this route. So it's best to route it behind the motherboard. Even for these things here, it's best to route here behind the motherboard. But this should be good enough. Anyway, what's left is to test this if it will work. I'll close this side panel just to test it works. And of course, screw the bottom panel as it might fall off. At least I could try this out.
So this is the PC now. So one thing that I could say that NR200P V2 is better is that you can see the light here from the RGB fans. So in my old NR200P, you can't really see the RGB as it is blocked by the radiator here. But now it looks cleaner, definitely cleaner. Let's see if I can open this. Definitely looks way cleaner than the old NR200P. I guess if I'll put the glass panel, it will look better, but I like this somewhat mesh style. Anyway, as for the purpose of this build, I'll show it to you. So let's start with the GPU and memory upgrade. Again, I took a screenshot of the VRAM usage while editing, and as you can see here, it was already consuming 8.6 gigabytes, which means that my upgrade for the GPU really helped. However, the memory usage became slightly lower, although I haven't really used and monitored it extensively. As for the CPU, well, that's another downer. My game didn't really improve, which means that it wasn't really the fault of the CPU, but likely a game engine limitation instead. Anyway, I think this is still a nice experiment, even though I failed in this experiment. But do let me know in the comments below on what you think of this video. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Do like or dislike and subscribe for more unboxing, SFF builds, and benchmarks. Bye!